Let's bring in our panel. Joining us as they do each Monday afternoon, Bruce Hawker, former Federal Labor strategist, and Grahame Morris with Barton Deakin. Thanks both for joining us. Let's kick off on the mining tax. Bruce, first to you. Is this an embarrassment for Labor, do you think?
Oh, it's not a good result, and I think part of it is that the royalties issue with the states is basically unresolved, and I think they should sort that out if they are going to, start really getting a decent income from this mining tax. Otherwise,
hard to sort it out though, isn't it? Because a deal was done with the miners, and you'd either have to convince them to break that deal, or you'd have to convince the states to come on board and be out of pocket. Hard to see that happening either at this point in the election cycle.
I think that's a problem. It's far too late in the cycle, and I suspect that everybody thinks that internally, that you're better off wearing any criticism of the fact that we're not getting anywhere near the $2 billion we expected to get. Mind you, that is in large part, I suspect, because of the downturn in the demand in the last year for iron ore particularly. But having said that, I think people would say we'd be better off just taking the hit rather than going back and having a big fight now with the states and or the mining companies, which was one of the big problems that Kevin Rudd had, of course, when he lost his leadership in 2010.
Yes, it was a big contributor to that downfall. Grahame, the point from the government is it's a profits-based tax. It's going to be volatile. Profits are down, the taxes, revenue's down. Profits are up, it'll be up.
It's a dog. It's not going to work, and they can't fix it. It's like asking somebody to build the harbour bridge, and your first time you find the design doesn't work, so you ask them to redesign it and build it again, and it falls down. You're not going to ask them a third time to fix it. This is not going to work. And it's even worse than that. The government promised, on the strength of all the money it was going to get from this tax, that they've now lost a couple of noughts somewhere, that they were going to do all sorts of wonderful things with superannuation and pay for the public servants, increase in superannuation, help small business. Well, listen, Bill Shorten is one of the best communicators the government's got, and this morning he sounded dreadful on this. He was asked, well, now that the money's not there from the mining tax, what are you going to do with your promises? And in essence he was saying, well, we'll use that stuff. What stuff? Money stuff. And where's the money stuff coming from? Oh, well, that Canberra black hole revenue
Consolidated
thing.
revenue.
And it was awful.
What's he going to say, though? What's he going to say?
Well,
no, we won't proceed with all these measures that we've linked to the tax?
I don't know, but it's one of these problems that we have with this government at the moment. They sort of, they get a big balloon and they go, and then a few months later go, it doesn't matter what it is. They build it up and it's not working and collapses.
Where does this leave Wayne Swan, do you think, Bruce Hawker?
Oh, look, it's embarrassing, I think, not to be able to come out with something much more positive than that $126 million figure. However, I think if I was him, I'd be making the point that that the sort of commentary that we just heard from Grahame is precisely what we've been really getting from the opposition for about 3 years now. Where's the money coming from that side? In a sense, it's a bit of a nil-sum game for both sides. They're saying they're going to abolish the carbon tax and they're going to have to compensate all the polluters for the money that they've paid. This is going to go to billions of dollars that'll have to be found by an incoming Liberal government if we were unlucky enough to have them elected. So on both sides of the ledger, you've got a problem with the credibility of the numbers. Labor's really got to push though to attack the opposition much more.
What do you say to this argument that the opposition's got a problem with making the numbers add up, and also the fact that we heard Matthias Cormann say it as well. They're going to wait until the election campaign to tell us how they're going to pay for everything. Yep. We deserve better than that, don't we? Why can't we find out if you've got a policy and you know how it's going to be paid for? I'm going to give you X and the money's going to come from Y. Why can't you put it out there?
Because it's all at the proper time. We get all the figures halfway through the election campaign. It's called the Charter of Budget Honesty. That tells us the true facts of all of the economic things. And it doesn't matter what much. The coalition will always be better at delivering in opposition these policies for costings the Labor Party ever was.
What does it matter what the budget bottom line is? If you've got a policy that's going to be paid for through this mechanism, and this is how I'm going to pay for this, why can't you announce that?
Because you don't know what your income is what the government's income is at the moment. You don't know what your starting point is. But look, it will be there, but it may well be that Bruce is right, that for the first election that I can ever remember, and that's going back to Fraser years, we may well have an opposition saying to the government, where's the money coming from? That's a newie. Normally it's the opposition gets a whack around the ears. But David, look, people will go on about this. It's not going to happen. The figures will not be released until during the election campaign. That's fact.
As they always are. Now, the workplace relations battle lines are becoming clearer. The Prime Minister wanting to extend the right to request flexible working hours to more people, whether they're caring for children at school, people with disabilities, elderly parents, whether they've been the victims of domestic violence as well. Grahame, that would seem to make sense. It's no obligation on the boss to say yes, but you do formally have the right to request it.
This one's a pink balloon that goes... where in the law is it illegal for any woman to go and ask her boss now, can she have more flexible hours? Where is it law? Well, it's not law.
Well, it is.
It's not.
It's the law for mothers or parents of...
Can ask.
Exactly.
But anybody can ask.
But they don't have to get a response from the boss. The boss can shut the door or hang up the phone.
Bloody stupid boss if he doesn't give a response. This is one of those sort of things that somebody has dreamed it up and said, hey, I've got a U-beard idea. Oh, goody, we're in trouble. Let's announce something, anything. And then you look at it and you think, well, what will change? Honestly, what will change?
Bruce, what do you think? Is it going to make a difference?
I don't think this is going to make much of a difference, I've got to say. But I do think it's a good idea to get onto industrial relations and get onto it pretty soon, because I think this is a...
But you've got to have something with
area.
Substance, haven't you? If you're going to shift onto that ground, you've got to have some
Absolutely,
meat.
yeah. And I think they can talk about the form that the opposition's got in this area. Tony Abbott was a member of a government which introduced work choices, and we know how popular that was with the electorate. Now, we know also that this is very much in the DNA of the Liberal Party, and that there are people out there who are very unhappy that it's not becoming much more front and centre. I think, once again, Labor has to push hard on the issues. They have to look for any chinks in the armour on the opposition side and go hard, because we know from experience that this is an area where the opposition will be very vulnerable if they show any sign of breaking ranks in it on the issue.
Now, Bruce, I've got to ask about your mate Kevin Rudd. He has released some documents, his correspondence with police over that infamous leaked YouTube video that precipitated the leadership challenge last year. He still says there are questions to be answered here, people that should be interviewed. Should he move on from this issue?
Well, I don't think it's front and centre in his mind, but I do think it's legitimate for him to ask, who stole that information, who put it on the internet, and get some proper answers. And I think anybody's entitled to that. I think it was, a premeditated act on someone's part. And of course, you remember at the time, some people were trying to point the finger at him and saying that it was some sort of convoluted scheme on his part to gain sympathy or whatever. So I think he's got a very real purpose and justification in asking for that to be
It's ancient history, though, isn't it? Why keep referring to this?
Well, it was a theft of information. A crime was committed, and I think...
And the police have investigated.
Well, the question is whether it's been adequately investigated, and I think that's what we've yet to find out.
Grahame, just a final quick one. The drugs in sport issue. What do you make of all of this, and the way the Crime Commission in particular handled this, announcing a blanket sort of announcement on Thursday that there's a huge problem, but now only getting more specific today?
Yeah, David, look, I'm a sport junkie. If there's a ball in it, I will watch it. I'll go and see it, or I will have played it. And I just didn't understand this. The way it was done, the Commission sort of smeared every sports person in this country. And I think that's just plain bloody ugly way of doing it. Why couldn't they have waited another week and doing what they're saying they're going to do now and name names and name clubs? Or conversely, why couldn't they have done that last week? All we've done is is tarnish Australian sport, not only in the lounge rooms and among the children and the kids of this country, but all around the world. The headlines globally are just dreadful about this magic country of ours where we've always said we've clean. And OK, maybe there's some mongrels there, but this is not the way to disclose it.
Well, hopefully in the next week we will get a bit more specific and clear the names of those many clubs and athletes who have done nothing wrong. We're out of time. Grahame Morris, Bruce Hawker, good to talk to you. Thanks for that. We'll catch up next week. Look forward to it.